Hi, my name is Carley, and my husband, Josh, he was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma in May of 2022, and I was his primary caregiver at the time that he was actually diagnosed, and we realized that this was happening. We were actually boyfriend and girlfriend. We had been together for few years, like 7 or so, and he was actually planning to propose on April 30th, and we ended up getting married on April 24th. We went to the emergency room in April after a few people brought up to us that he didn't look very well. He was having a lot of side effects of, now we know it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. And we decided to go to the emergency room just to get things checked out. And it came back that the ER doctor essentially told us, it's very likely that he has this. And he was officially diagnosed in May. So we had the engagement ring hiding in our basement. And the day that we went to the emergency room, we came home. And a few minutes after we had both eventually gotten into the house and made some phone calls, we went down into the basement and he pulled out the ring and told me, he doesn't want to go through this with anyone else. And that he essentially proposed. And we were engaged, I guess, for a few days. And then we just decided, let's elope, let's do this, and let's go into this as husband and wife. I kind of took on the role as caregiver almost immediately. So that was a hard reality. I think all of it was a hard reality. Like, I still don't know if we fully have wrapped our heads around what's happened. Everything happened so fast. So St. Patrick's Day of 2022, he was experiencing just a fever, just not feeling well. And that we've tried to backtrack, when did this start? And I don't think we'll ever actually figure it out. But we both remember St. Patrick's Day was the first time where we both can remember that he had some sort of symptom happening. Some of his other symptoms were itchy skin, and we kind of chalked that up to, it was wintertime and just dry skin. And then he also was anemic, so he was really cold all of the time and not able to really regulate his temperature. He had lost about 10 pounds, which we didn't think much of. He had a lymph node in his clavicle it kind of popped up overnight, honestly, but it was pretty large. A shortness of breath. He ended up having a lymph node pressing against his trachea, which was causing the shortness of breath. And I think that was everything. And after we kind of realized that, or once we figured out that he had the Hodgkin's lymphoma, it made so much sense because he had every single symptom of it. Like, if you were to Google all the symptoms, it was like a list, and you could just check off every single one. We were with friends on Easter weekend, and I was actually pulled aside by some of my friends, and they told me that he looked yellow. And at that point, his side effects had started kind of coming together, and we knew something was going on. He had a doctor's appointment scheduled. He actually bumped it up sooner. And when they told me that he looked yellow, that definitely sent off some red flags in my head of, okay, something really is going on. And it's something that I don't think I noticed because I live with him and I see him every day. So I didn't notice. And then on Easter Sunday, I went to my mom's and he went to his parents' house, and they all kind of identified that he didn't look right. And his dad saw his lymph node and was like, something's definitely going on. His sister is an emergency room nurse, so she suggested, come up to my hospital and we'll take a look, we'll run some labs, and we'll see what's going on. And my family works in the medical field as well, and I was telling them all of the symptoms that he was experiencing, and we called it the lump at the time, the lymph node. My stepdad was like, it's one of three things. It's a lipoma, it's a lymph node, or it's a tumor. And he really wanted to be a lipoma. So I was like, okay. And I mentioned to my mom, I was like, I might take some time off work. I just want to take a little siesta. And she was like, maybe save that time. You might need it. And I was like, okay. So I don't know if they knew, but I think they knew something was going on. And then that night, actually, or maybe the day after, I woke up out of my sleep and got on my phone, which I never do. and I got on TikTok. And when I tell people this, I feel like it's a really strange story, but it happened. I got on TikTok, and the first video that popped up was the first picture was him standing in a hospital gown, and it had all of his symptoms, which were the same things that Josh was experiencing. And then it cut to the next picture, and it said he had stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, which turned out to be exactly what Josh had. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is definitely not good. So at that point, I realized like this might be worse than we thought, but I still had a lot of hope driving to the hospital and sitting there and waiting for the results. That I think I even told Josh, we're going to leave there and feel silly that we even went, and we're just going to have a big medical bill that we have to deal with. But unfortunately, it was cancer. And I don't think I really wrapped my head around that or thought that was a possibility, like officially, until it was said, because, I just kept in my mind, like, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. But it was definitely hard. When we found out that he likely had some form of lymphoma or cancer, we didn't really Google anything. We weren't looking anything up because we didn't want to scare ourselves. As we got to know the oncologist and some of the doctors that work in the office, they all assured us, this is the best. They say it's like the good cancer, the best kind to have, because it is so curable. So that was something that stuck in my mind, at least, and I think in his too. The fight's not easy. The treatment is definitely not easy, but the cancer is one that is curable. So, I think the ER doctor actually said to us, like, if you get cancer, this is the one you want. So, like, I don't think anyone wants cancer, but I guess that's their way of trying to help realize that it isn't the worst type, and it is curable. So, but it was hard to hear. I personally go to therapy a lot. And my therapist definitely helped with navigating a lot of my feelings and my emotions around Josh's treatment and his cancer, because like I said, I don't even know if we ever really will wrap our heads around what happened, because it was just so much in just less than a year. And now with things being back to more normal and him being healthy, it's like, what just happened? Caregiving overnight was definitely an adjustment. Josh and I lived life together, but we were both very independent. We had kind of our own roles in our house of like what we do. He does a lot of the cooking and grocery shopping, and I didn't really handle any of that. And kind of overnight, I took on everything. One thing I told him, and I know not everyone's in this position, but I told him, your job is to get better. And that's all you have to do. Like, that's your full-time job. Luckily, he didn't have to work. So he was home from the day that he was diagnosed, or preliminarily diagnosed at the ER, to a little bit after his last treatment. He was home every day. So I made it very clear, you take care of yourself and show up for yourself, and that's all you have to do. And I'll do everything else. I worked from home Monday through Friday. So I was able to be here with giving him his medicine and making sure he was eating breakfast and drinking water, and just if he needed anything, whether it was physically needing something, emotionally, I was able to be available. I would work in the room where he was at most of the time, just so he could have someone here with him, because it's isolating and it's lonely. I feel like I probably didn't take care of myself as much as I should have, and I don't think many caregivers do. Josh would encourage me to do things like, especially in the beginning, he actually paid for me to get a massage and a facial, which I will forever appreciate. But I think, as treatment went on, it got a little bit harder to care for myself and to make sure I was doing things that I needed to. Like I said, I wasn't really leaving the house either, which can be a challenge because physically I was feeling fine. So I would walk the dog. We have a dog and 2 cats. So I would walk him just short, like around the block. And then I had therapy once a week. So I was able to meet with my therapist for an hour and just, kind of talk about me and also Josh and what was going on. And she always gave me really great tips and advice on, how to care for myself and what I need to work on in the next week till we meet again. So that was always helpful. And then I tried to, when I did leave the house and do things, I tried to take advantage of it. So I actually had a caregiver card for medical marijuana, which is legal in our state, and was a big help for Josh. So I was actually able to go to the dispensary and pick it up. And um, I would go there maybe once a week or so. And I would listen to some music and drive with the windows down and try to enjoy a few minutes out of the house because I wasn't really able to leave, and I didn't want to leave him alone. Like I wanted to support him in any way possible. So we were here a lot together. So I've never cared for a parent, a grandparent. No one in my family and Josh's immediate family have been sick to the point that either of us needed to caregive or help out in any way. So the whole just cancer in general was just so new to us. And um, I learned a lot about the medical field, health insurance, Hodgkin's lymphoma, chemotherapy, I call it knowledge that I never ever wanted, but now I have so much of it. But it was definitely a hard transition. Like I found myself Googling all the time, and the hospital where Josh went, luckily they gave us this big binder that they call the Bible that has a lot of like questions and answers, and we were able to utilize that a lot. But just we had to utilize a lot of resources like calling the doctors on the weekends or asking a lot of questions when he was going to treatment. But becoming a caregiver overnight, it really was hard. And living in survival mode for so long was definitely a challenge. And I've even found some challenges like after the life after treatment. I found myself feeling protective, and we would go out to a bar and I'm like looking around to make sure everything's okay. And it was hard for me to realize like he's okay. He's going to be okay. I always knew like it's so positive that he's able to, drive his car now and go to work. And like I'm very thankful and so happy that he's able to, get back into normal life. But it was hard. Like we were here together basically 24/7 for over 6, 7, 8 months. At first, that was actually really hard for me because I'd be like, gosh, like I miss him. And you would think after spending so much time with someone, you would need time away. But it really brought us, like this whole situation, as bad as it was, like brought us so close. And we have this bond that I will never have with anyone else. And I don't wish this experience on anyone, but it is like a positive that, came from this, is that we are so bonded and so close. But it is a sense of like when they gain their independence back, you're kind of lost because you've dedicated 24/7 at this point to this person and making sure they're, getting where they need to be and doing what they need to do. And then one day they don't need that anymore, which again is amazing. But it is hard because then you're like, okay, so what do I do now? Even though for most of my life I wasn't a caregiver, it's like you just get so like involved in that role and it becomes your life that it's a hard transition to go back. But I'm happy to be back where we are now. You really you get so involved in caring for someone and it becomes your life essentially. So when you don't have to do that anymore, it's kind of like finding yourself again, and finding your own independence and doing things that you enjoy and that bring you joy. And I wasn't really able to leave the house for too long of a time during the whole time that he was going through treatment. So now that I'm able to just kind of come and go as I please, it's a newfound sense of independence. And few weeks, month later, I became the caregiver. But it was definitely a hard transition. Like it definitely wasn't all rainbows and butterflies going from like when people get married, they have the time to, or get engaged at least, they have the time to, plan a wedding and go wedding dress shopping and go to a bachelor and bachelorette party and do all of those things and then have this giant party with all the people you love. And we didn't get any of that, and it wasn't by choice. So that definitely was hard. And just, they always say like your first year of marriage is the hardest, and that proved to be very true with us. Our first year of marriage was unlike a lot of people's, I'm sure, especially being so young. So we were going into this journey as husband and wife and as patient and caregiver, and they were all new territories for us. So there were definitely some challenges, but like I said, we have a bond like no other, and I know that we can get through anything. And when we set our vows, the sickness and health definitely stuck out to me. And marriage or not, I would have been there and done everything I could. Taking him to his appointments. I sat there with him. I actually worked while he was getting treatment done, which benefited both of us, gave me something to do. But I don't know. I would do it again if I needed to. I would never wish this upon him, but I'm honored to have been able to help him, get through such a hard time.
Did it break?
That's right. And I was in the room with him when he got that phone call, and I heard them say, no evidence of disease. And I fell to the floor and I just cried. I've never been so happy and thankful just to know that it was working, because you see someone going through all of these awful side effects from the chemotherapy for 3 months at that point, and it's just like you're hoping it's working. And to find out that it was and getting that confirmation, like he was actually feeling better, like his lymph node was going down and the side effects from the cancer were going away, but the symptoms from the chemotherapy were increasing. So, we, in the back of our minds, were like, okay, this is going to be good, but we never expected it to be that good, only halfway through. And then once his 12th treatment ended, he got another PET scan, and that one was also had no evidence of disease. And it's just such a great feeling to know that all of the work that he put in and everything that he's went through, as unfortunate as it is, because obviously we'd want him to never go through this, that it actually worked and that he is able to live such a good life after. When the PET scans come up and blood work comes up, I do worry about those types of things. And when we go to appointments, like, it's always potential that something could happen. Yeah, I think with the skin anxiety for a caregiver, at least for myself, and then for Josh also, like when you initially get that scan, like things are good for a little bit. Like you don't really have to worry, everything's the way it should be. As it gets closer to your next scan, that's when I feel like the anxiety starts to heighten a little bit. So my way of managing my anxiety is trying to help manage his. So, we have a lot of discussions about when the scan comes around, and I take him to a scan. So we ride in the car together, we ride home together. We're a duo. We also utilize for him he uses Ativan, which is definitely helpful to calm his nerves. And I also joined, we did a local support group, which was in person, which was amazing. And then we also did, we found like a Hodgkin's online support group. That was a little triggering for Josh, and I didn't stay in it very long, but I did meet someone through that who is also a caregiver around my age. Her boyfriend is around Josh's age, and he had the same cancer, just stage 3 was the only difference. So she has been such a grace in my life. Her and I talk frequently, and she's amazing. She validates so many of my feelings, and I think I do the same for her. I have a lot of friends here. We have a lot of family here, but talking to her is different because she is going through the same thing, and she can validate my feelings up and down like no other. She understands all of the emotions and the mood swings and everything that comes with, life before, during, and after cancer. Finding someone who can relate to you and you can relate to, I think is really helpful. My experience is so much different than someone who is 70. Josh and I had to talk about family planning, and we haven't lived a lot of our life yet. We started our marriage taking him to chemotherapy. Navigating through all of that is not a typical life for people in their 20s. I would say if you're a caregiver, please ask for help. If anyone offers to help you, take it. People don't know how to help you, so you kind of have to guide them and tell them what you need, and just take the help from anyone. If you have the resources and are able to, things like HelloFresh, Instacart, anything to make your life easier, go for it. we actually hired someone to clean our house on days where Josh was getting chemotherapy. So we would come home to a clean house, a made bed. It was just one less thing for us to worry about. I would recommend that to anyone. Um, Also, try to remember that your loved one who is going through treatment, they're not themselves. They're getting a lot of medications put into their body. They're angry, they're sad, they're depressed, and try your best to not, take things to heart. They're doing their best, you're doing your best, and at the end of the day, everything's going to work out. Journal, do some self-care, go to therapy. Any of those things would really, they'd benefit anyone, but especially someone going through such a hard time. Just try to take care of yourself.